Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Renegade Sport Report football edition this time. I'm going to hold off. I know the MLB is in their playoffs right now, but I'm going to hold off until we know the two World Series teams, so I can cover all of the baseball playoffs in one video instead of covering them now and then returning a couple weeks later, a couple games later, and having the World Series predictions. Um, I would just prefer to cover all of the MLB up to the World Series in one video. Um, and of course, the Championship Series not done yet. I have earlier recorded this fun fact. I recorded this whole video earlier, but OBS, which is the thing I use to record and capture my screen for these videos, wasn't actually recording. So, welcome to take two here. But yes, football edition. Starting off with NCAA football. Um, I will just be covering Division One. However, in later videos, I might cover Division Two and Division Three of NCAA football as well, as I know there are some good teams and good games that go on. But for now, it will just be NCAA football Division One, just like most other content creators out there who cover college football content. Um, there were some huge top 25 matchups that went on last Saturday. Um, you could see Oregon, Washington was a great one. Notre Dame, USC was one. Miami and North Carolina was technically a top 25 matchup. And UCLA and versus against Oregon State was one as well. But the best one, in my opinion, of course, game of the year contender was Washington and Oregon. Washington was ranked 7th going into that game. Oregon was ranked 8th. Michael Penix Jr., Penix, however you say his name, just a huge game for his Heisman candidacy. I think he is number one in Heisman right now. That's just my opinion. But 22 of 37, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception in that really back and forth game. So many lead changes in Oregon, Washington. It was just really, really fun to watch. I didn't watch the whole game. As I was playing Assassin's Creed Mirage, um, which I was really excited for. Yes, I do play video games and cover sport. You can call me a nerd, but no, I was playing Assassin's Creed Mirage. I had it on in the background, but missed some really fun plays that happened in that game. But I know it was back and forth. I know there were so many lead changes, and well, just a really fun game and a really good win, top 10 win in a top 10 matchup for Washington, who's now the only undefeated team in the Pac 12. Next season, we'll call it the Pac 2. Or it might be gone next season. So, I mean, being the last, being if whoever wins the Pac 12 championship this year can have bragging rights as the last ever Pac 12 champion, as I believe the conference will be dissolved. Their media rights are gone next year, and pretty much every team has moved out of Pac 12. We had Pittsburgh and Louisville happen as well. Pittsburgh always seems to be a ranked team every single season in an upset victory. This time, unfortunately, Louisville was the victim of the Pittsburgh Magic. Um, Jack Plummer didn't have a great game, less than 50% completion percentage there in that one. 29 of 52. Yes, had 350 yards, which is pretty decent. but 1 touchdown, 2 costly interceptions in the game to shift the momentum. One of them was a pick six, and let's talk about this guy for a moment. MJ Devonshire, um, Pittsburgh cornerback with one of the best defensive games I have personally seen in a while. 6 tackles, 5 passes defended in one game, and then, of course, a pick six against Louisville. Pittsburgh 38, Louisville 21. Unfortunate for the Cardinals, as 14 was their highest ranking since they had Lamar Jackson on their team. Um, didn't do much with that ranking, losing by double digits there. Miami versus North Carolina, or North Carolina versus Miami. Miami, uh, you could say so much about them. That game that they had last week, not this week, not last Saturday, but the Saturday beforehand, not taking the knee, that is just a disastrous call there. And then they lose this game as well. They're out of the rankings, the newest rankings, deservedly so. However, Tyler Van Dyke, beautiful game, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Drake May had a great game as well with 4 touchdowns. But let's take a moment to talk about Devontae Walker. Transfer over from a smaller college. Was he Kent State as well? I know Colin Schlee, which we'll talk about with UCLA, was a Kent State transfer. Devontae Walker might have been as well, transferring to North Carolina. I know it was some smaller school, still Division I, but smaller school, transferring over to North Carolina. His second game of eligibility on the season, 6 receptions, 132 yards, but 3 touchdowns. This North Carolina offense with Drake May, now Devontae Walker, Amari Hampton, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, and we'll see how good North Carolina, if they can hold on to the top 10 ranking, um, pretty much for the rest of the season. I mean, top 25 ranking, top 15 ranking, I should say, for the rest of the season. We had Kentucky losing their second straight game, like Miami, this time to Missouri. Missouri unranked going into this matchup, ranked last week against when they faced LSU, losing that game in really what was a heartbreaker for them. Brady Cook, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, having another good game, 33 of 44, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devin Leary didn't have a great game himself. Less than 50% completion percentage, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interception there. Of course, Troy Franklin, not on Missouri. Ignore that. That is my mistake. Um, but yeah, just a great offensive showing, great bounce back game by the Tigers of Mizzou to hand Kentucky their second straight loss. Top 25 matchup here between Oregon State and UCLA. UCLA, it was the Beavers getting a victory over the Bruins by 12 points. This was another pretty decent game for week 7 of the college football season. DJ Ugalele, 14 of 24, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns. The leading receiver for the Beavers in that game was Silas Bolden, who's had a couple of good games this season here for Oregon State. Ryan Cooper Jr., Oregon State defender with a pick six of Dante Moore. Speaking of Dante Moore, really just looking like a freshman in that game. He is a freshman, but really looking like a freshman here in this one. 14 of 33, 165 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions. They need him to pick up the pace. Once again, bounce back next week. um, and show that he could be a great quarterback of the future because him in this top 25 matchup didn't really show that he can perform well in big games. Yes, I get it. And yes, I will keep saying it. He is a freshman, lots of time to improve. However, just a freshman like game for the freshman. Um, wow, freshman's not going to sound like a real word if I keep saying it. Colin Schley, the Kent State transfer, who I thought was going to take over the starting quarterback role for UCLA this season, Dante Moore beat him out, but getting some playing time, not in the passing game, but on the ground game, 6 carries for 80 yards. And then we had the biggest shock result of week 7, in my opinion, if the college football world. Um, Notre Dame getting a 28-point victory against USC. Sam Hartman, Caleb Williams, neither of the quarterbacks playing too well, but Caleb Williams especially didn't play well in this game. The Heisman of last year, 23 of 37, which is an okay completion percentage for a quarterback. Over 50%, maybe over 60% as well. However, only 199 yards, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions. Xavier Watts, the Notre Dame defender, getting 2 of those interceptions, also 7 tackles, and a forced fumble. Notre Dame defense came to play against Notre Dame in a huge bounce back victory. Notre Dame, of course, losing by double digits last week against Louisville, just bouncing back and showing that they are still here to stay. May not make the college football playoffs, already 2 losses for Notre Dame, one against Ohio State and then one against Louisville, but just a huge result, knocking USC down far in these newer rankings, knocking and helping Notre Dame climb the rankings, get back into a near top 15 spot. Speaking of the newest rankings, here they are. Of course, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, still the top 3. Florida State still at 4, but Washington moving up 2 spots after that win against Oregon to number 5 on the season, would just be outside of the college football playoffs, at least if the AP poll controlled that. Oklahoma moving down a spot. They didn't play this week. Washington jumping them for that 5 spot. Oklahoma still stays at number 6. Penn State moving down a spot as well to 7. They also did not play this week. Texas moving up a spot. They played and no, they did not play, but swapping spots with Oregon after the Oregon loss to Washington. Oregon from 8 to 9, Texas from 9 to 8. We had North Carolina moving up 2 spots to number 10 on the season. Alabama staying at number 11. They played but didn't show a lot of hope for their team against Arkansas. A 1 possession win there. That game was also very fun to watch. Unfortunately, Arkansas could not make the upset for their season. Alabama stays at 11 with that victory, however. Oregon State moving up 3 spots with their victory against UCLA. Ole Miss staying at number 13. They didn't play this week. Neither did Utah, who moves up 2 spots, however, to number 14. Notre Dame moving from 21 to 15, the biggest riser in the pool, in the polls here, rankings here, I should say. Duke moving up a spot as well. Another team that did not play, as well as Tennessee moving up 2 spots not playing, because USC moving down 8 spots from 10 to 18 after that disastrous loss against Notre Dame. LSU moving up 3 spots. They have a 5-2 record, still crack the top 20. Missouri staying where they are at. Oh, I guess Missouri was ranked um, going into that game against Kentucky. Kentucky moving out with the rankings. I thought they were unranked, but they were ranked, but staying at their number 20 spot. Louisville moving from 13 to number 21 with that loss against Pittsburgh. Air Force. Now let's talk about Air Force versus Wyoming there for a second. One of the best unranked games of Week 7, just like Washington, Oregon, could be a game of the year contender, in my opinion. Um, Air Force pulling out a victory against Wyoming, however, and moving up, moving into the rankings for the first time at 22. Tulane moving into the rankings at 23. Iowa moving their way back into the rankings as well at 24. And UCLA holding on to a top 25 ranking after their loss to Oregon State. They rank at number 25 with a 4-2 record. As you can see on the other side, we have the list of the top 25 matchups, not top 25 matchups next week for the top 25 teams. Of course, Penn State, Ohio State, circle that one. That one should be a really, really good game. Ohio State always seems to beat Penn State. However, this season, I mean, I predict it will stay the same. Ohio State looking absolutely really good on the season. But so is Penn State. Actually, Penn State, one of the 3 teams in college football that does not have an interception thrown this season. We have Duke versus Florida State in another top 25 matchup. Can Duke prove their worth and beat number 4 ranked Florida State? Florida State looking vulnerable to some teams this season. I could very well see Duke getting the upset victory there in that one. Arizona State, Washington. Arizona State, not a bad team, but Washington in their ferocious offense, I think, will handle that one pretty well. Oklahoma, UCF. UCF not great in the season. Oklahoma should very well beat them. Um, we have Texas and Houston. Once again, Texas should beat Houston quite easily in that one. Oregon and Washington State, man. Washington State unranked, however, could it be a trap like game for Oregon? Oregon, I don't think will have 2 straight losses, but that one is one to watch for an upset alert. North Carolina, Virginia, once again, just like Ohio State, no, not Ohio State, just like Washington, just like Texas and Oklahoma, I don't think North Carolina will struggle too much against Virginia. Tennessee, Alabama in the top 25 matchup, neither really ranked inside the top 10. That was a great game last season when it happened. It could be another good game between those two this season. I think Tennessee will go off the victory there and a slight upset, but not real upset victory. Ole Miss facing Auburn. I think Auburn could be a team that could upset Ole Miss as well. Um, Auburn, not a horrible team this season, but this matchup as well, just like Penn State, Ohio State, is one that I will very well be paying attention to. It is Utah and USC. Of course, USC with that 28-point loss to Notre Dame. Can they bounce back and beat the Utes, or will Utah and their offense, their defense, I should say, have another hold Southern California to another horrible offensive game? And then we got the remaining top 25 teams playing Missouri, facing South Carolina in what could be a trap game for them. LSU facing Army West Point. LSU, of course, 19. I don't think they should have trouble against Army there in that one. Air Force, Navy, and a military showdown. Air Force should get a victory there as well. Tulane, North Texas. Don't know too much about the two teams, but Tulane has been good for a couple seasons now. I see them getting a victory. Iowa, Minnesota, Big Ten always could have upsets, especially when Iowa's playing not great offensively. Could be another top 25 upset there in that one. And UCLA, Stanford. Stanford, I don't think will beat UCLA, but that could be another trap like game for a top 25 team. Moving on to my NCAA football playoff picks of week 7. I had Washington actually in my playoff picks. Of course, the actual playoff rankings won't come out for a while. I have Washington there at number 1 in the my college football playoff predictions. That game against Oregon proving that they are a team to be reckoned with. In Georgia, yes, they beat Kentucky, blew out Kentucky in a top 25 matchup, with Kentucky losing a second straight game really makes that win a little bit less impressive. Uh, and Georgia not looking great, only beating Vanderbilt in week 7, 37-20. Yes, scoring 37 points, but giving up 20 points to Vanderbilt when they have Missouri still on the schedule, have tough games still on the schedule. I see them losing one of these games, although that's what people said when they were facing Kentucky. I have Michigan at 3 and Ohio State at 4. Of course, two Big Ten teams. Penn State facing, Ohio State facing Penn State this week. We'll see if they can pull out a victory and solidify themselves as a top 4 team in the nation. And of course, Michigan, uh, not a terribly hard schedule. However, unbeaten and just beating the teams they should beat by a lot. Florida State, on the other hand, not beating the teams they should beat by comfortably. Um, I have them just outside the playoffs at 5, and then Oklahoma they're at 6, coinciding with their new AP poll ranking. Moving on to the NFL, finally getting to professional football here. And wow, what a week of the NFL it was there in week number 6. A couple of upsets taking place. Eagles and 49ers going into the week unbeaten, both losing first games to teams that they really shouldn't have lost to. The Jets and their quarterback, I forget his name. Yeah, Zach Wilson beating the Eagles 20-14 in what was a massive second half defense performance. Of course, Brees Hall um, running in for the go-ahead touchdown with under 2 minutes to go, but giving up all the Jets, giving up the 14 points in the first half and 0 in the second half of play there, holding the Eagles' somewhat dangerous offense in check, and the Browns beating the 49ers with PJ Walker, the third string quarterback for the Browns. I guess main backup now with ETR, the third string, but still a practice squad quarterback coming up and beating the Browns beat the 49ers. Not a great game by BJ Walker, not a great game by either quarterback in the game. But Jerome Ford carrying for almost 80 yards for the Browns, and the Browns defense probably at this point can be considered the best defensive unit in the NFL. No real weaknesses on the defense. You can argue linebacker, but they played pretty well here on the season. Some other big results, at least in my opinion, it was the Cowboys beating the Chargers in a prove your worth game for the Cowboys. they do so by beating a Chargers team who's struggling on the season. Of course, I have the standings here on the screen as well. This video's already pretty long, um, so don't want to go over fully on the standings, but they're there just to look at. Um, the Dolphins beating the Panthers, and I think this is a significant game, not because, you know, it was an upset or anything, but the Panthers still yet to win a game on the season, losing to the Dolphins 42-21. The Panthers jumped out to an early 14-0 lead, but just could score 7 points the rest of the game after that, while the Dolphins offense got going. Lions beating the Buccaneers. Lions number 3 in the NFC standings, of course, leading the NFC North division by, what is it, 2 games at this point? As all of the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and who else is in that division? I forget. Oh, yeah, the Chicago Bears with losing records. Lions already 3 games ahead in the NFC North and looking like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Um, beating the Buccaneers 20-6 in week number 6. The Buccaneers, not a very easy team to beat, actually top of their division as well. Commanders and Falcons. Commanders getting a win. Commanders, I mean, started off the season well, undefeated, losing to Buffalo, and then losing a couple more times before finally getting a win back against a not so easy to beat Falcons team here, uh, for a big result. But both of those teams at 3-3. In the AFC, the playoff standings, if the season were to end today, would be Kansas City as the 1 seed, Miami as the 2 seed, Baltimore 3 seed, Jacksonville 4 seed, Buffalo 5 seed, and then Pittsburgh and Cleveland rounding out with a 6 and 7 team. And the standings right here, um, these standings just prove that the AFC North is one of the best divisions in football. I'm sorry. The Steelers and Browns, really good defenses. Baltimore, of course, always seem to have all of their players injured, but still, with a great coach, can easily win this division. Actually, any of these 3 teams can win the division. Bengals at 3-3, sitting at last place, but they're still a viable candidate to win the AFC North as well. The NFC playoffs, if the season were to end today, would be San Francisco 1 seed, Philadelphia 2 seed, um, Detroit 3 seed, Tampa Bay 4 seed, Dallas 5 seed, Seattle 6 seed, Los Angeles and Washington taking the last 2 spots with the 6th and 7th seeds respectively. So yeah, that Commanders game, pretty big for them as they move over Atlanta via the head-to-head tiebreaker for that to hold on to that 7th seed in the playoffs so far. And finally, ending with some games to watch next week. Of course, I have all of the AFC North games. Cincinnati on a bye week. Um, However, all of the AFC North games listed here as that division, any team in that division, that division can win. We have the Lions at the Ravens. So Ravens at home. I think the Lions will come away with the victory. 5-1 on the season. They have lots of momentum. Their defense so much improved from last year. I predict them to beat the Ravens 20-17. Ravens, some offensive struggles. Browns and Colts. Colts, Gardner Minshew, I believe, will be the starter once again in that game, as we might have to wait for next season to see their rookie quarterback go onto the field again. I think the Browns defense, the best defense in the league. Yes, I might be biased as I am a Browns fan, but um, Browns defense holds the Colts and their backup quarterback to only 10 points. Deshaun Watson could very well be back in this game, but if not, it doesn't really matter. The defense would do what they do for the Browns, and the offense will do just enough. 24-10, I have the score. Browns by 14. Steelers and Rams, I have the Steelers in there. Pretty good defense. Of course, TJ Watt, I believe, is the clear defensive player of the year front runner right now. I have the Steelers beating the Rams in the game next week, 17-13. Dolphins and Eagles, to one to watch next week. Of course, Eagles losing last week to the Jets will be angry here in this one, looking for a win and a prove prove it game between two of the very best teams in the NFL. This, I think, should be high scoring, but Eagles, I think, will come out with this victory, push the Dolphins to 5-2, Eagles to 6-1 after that victory. If they do get a victory, 38-35 Eagles. I have winning against the Dolphins next week. And then Packers and Broncos. Okay, this might not be the most exciting game here to put, but I think this is a very, very big game for the Packers. Of course, 2-3 on the season. Had a bye week last week. But if they lose this game, it could be a Lions very easy division win. As the Packers are a team that I think could catch them in the division if Jordan Love plays somewhat decently. Packers, I think, get a fairly easy win against a Broncos team who's 1-5 on the season and just not great. Packers win at 33-17. And that will do it for this Renegade Sport Report football edition. If you like these videos, please hit the like button. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Any feedback like that happens. Speaking of feedback, anything I can do to improve, put in the comments below. And, well, I will see you guys in the next one.